Malak, can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah, welcome
yeah.
back. Okay.
Okay.
Now after finishing talking about the general overview, now I think it's the time to go into details. So let me share the screen and let's begin. Okay, so this is it. And now we have to start with read and complete. Okay, I need to tell you something. This is read and complete, absolutely. But let me scroll up and show you something. We said, Malak, that the American accent, the British accent is correct, except for what? Read and complete question type. This is it. This is read and complete. You have only to consider the American accent. This is it. Because if you want to ask me why, let's imagine, Malak, that here we have color. And because we have color, absolutely, how many blanks should we have? Color, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Okay.
Yeah, because only
Um,
5 blanks or spaces are going.
American.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so this is it. So we have a flavor, for example. Flavor in the is different from American and British because flavor with O in American and with U in the British color center. So be careful because you have to consider only the American accent. Okay.
Mm.
So I think now we have to start talking about this form, which is read and complete. Okay. In trying to discuss every form, every task, we have to check or read the tips and strategies you have to keep in mind just to be able to solve every section or every task or every um, form correctly. So now read and complete. This is reading. This is read and complete. Okay. So let's start talking about read and complete. So this is exactly the screen is going to be shown in front of
Mm.
you. So this is the countdown or the time remaining. Absolutely, it's
Mm.
going to be shown on the screen, and you have to type the missing letters to complete the text below. All the time, Malik, absolutely, at least 1 letter or 2 letters are going to be shown in the beginning of every blank. Okay?
Mm.
Yeah, like for example, is even if they are 2 letters, they will write at least 1 letter.
One
So
of
is
such.
oh
Yeah.
bravo. So please, because if it isn't, it will be too much harder for any student to solve it. So this is it. You have to move your mouse on the blank, and you have to type the missing letter, and this is the blank letters, for example, and you have to now complete. There is something, please, Malak, there is something you have to keep in mind in reading and completing. First of all, you have to consider the grammar. I mean, for example, um, for example, John, let me tell you what I mean by this is John, and let's imagine that you have W here. Okay, this is one blank. This is second blank. This is the third blank. This is the okay. To school, for example. I know that this is the simplest example, but I'm trying just to give you the meaning about grammar. Why should I take into consideration the grammar all the time? If we have John and W, for example, to school, absolutely the best verb is walk. Okay, if you want to write walk, you will notice that we have 1 letter missing. We have one black, although that you wrote walk. Keep in mind that because John is singular and because it is
Mhm.
simple present, you have to add s.
Yeah.
Bravo. Please,
Mm.
this is really important. So this is why you have to consider the grammar all the time. Okay?
Yeah. Mm.
Okay.
Okay.
So let's try to practice because I know that. But before that, all as I told you before, Malak, with all the forms tasks, I'm going to explain the task, and I'm going to show you the best tips you have to keep in mind, again, just to solve it the best that you can. Now, how many times this kind of a question, which is read and complete, shall be shown? It is between 3 and 7 times. The average is 6 times. This is number one. Number two, you have 3 minutes to complete the task. The passages that are going to be shown less than 100 words. These are paragraphs. Okay? Now, what about the texts, the prompts, or the topics? Some topics are going to be academic. Some topics are going to be general. Let me give you an example. I mean, by academics, like the scientific texts, like texts at university or maybe school, for example. This is the meaning of academic text. And general text is about your everyday English. It's about general life. For example, maybe maybe a meeting between a father and a son, for example, or maybe two friends are talking about marriage, for example, or something like that. This is the meaning of general English or the everyday English. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. So as I told you before, the first letters all the time are going to be shown. At least, absolutely, one letter at least. Now, the subscores, the literacy you have to consider. The literacy and the comprehension. We have to discuss this into details. Okay, so this is it.
Sorry, I don't understand the first one between
I
3
know,
to
literacy.
7 times.
Okay.
What
You
do
have
you
to
mean?
you have to be accurate in writing the missing word. Absolutely, we are going to discuss these things. Don't rush the things up. Okay? Okay.
Okay.
Now, the first thing you have to do, please, Malak, which is reading the whole passage fast and once. There are two skills you have to do. We have
Sorry,
skim.
can I take a screenshot or no?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, okay.
Do you want me to go back one step?
No, that's good. Because I take notes. It's okay.
You have to.
Okay.
Okay. You have to read through apps. Okay. Let me tell you again. You have to read the passage at least once. You have to read it fast. There are two skills you have to consider, Malak. We have scan, the skill, scan, and we have skim. These two skills should be applied on reading. What is the meaning of a scan, or what is the difference between scan and skim? A scan is to read fast. A skim is to read slowly to get the main idea of the passage. Okay? Now, in reading and completing, you have to scan the text. You have to read fast, at least, just to know the idea the text is talking about. Okay? Okay? We have some questions in the TOEFL exam, for example. These questions are going to be asked for the meaning of the writer, for example. What does the writer mean in paragraph 2? In this way, you have to skim. I mean, you have to read slowly just to get the main idea of the writer. You don't have to read fast, because if you want to read fast, you will not get the main idea or the intention of the writer. Okay, so you have to scan, you have to read fast, just at least to get the topic or the main idea the text is talking about. So read the first and the last sentences carefully. Do you know why, Malak? Why should I read the first and the last sentences carefully? Because in writing any piece of writing, if you want to write a report, if you want to write an article, if you want to write paragraph, essay, the main ideas all the time is or are in the introduction. The introduction, absolutely. Then in the conclusion, I have to I have to revise. I have to rewrite the main ideas. So all the time, the main ideas are in the beginning and at the end of every piece of writing. This is why you have to read the first and the last sentences carefully, because the main idea is in them. Okay? As I told you before, You have to use American spelling. And you have to use context clues. This is extremely important. Okay, I have to explain this. What do I mean by context clues? And why context clues is really helpful. Don't forget a grammar. A grammar is extremely important, okay?
Okay.
And absolutely practicing every day is really important. Okay, before we practice, Malak, I know that you want to ask me, teacher, what do you mean by context clues? There is, let me call it, an extremely important skill you have to apply in reading just to know the meaning the speaker is, or the writer maybe, is talking about. Let's open the file of context clues. Let me explain it. And the next class we are going to complete. Okay. So you notice in the tips, we have context clues. What do I mean by context clues? This is it. Okay. I need to tell you something, Malak, before explaining the context clues. The professional writers, any professional writer, if that writer, if he or she wants to write something, he has to consider four things. He has to consider the examples. This is number one. He has to consider the synonyms. He has to consider, or she has, if the writer is a girl, antonyms and definitions. What do they mean? Let me give you an example. Sometimes the writer is going to write a word that the reader is not going to understand. For example, timid. Take a look at this word, which is timid. Because we are non-native speakers, Malak. You don't know the meaning of timid. And the writer knows that maybe some writers are non-native speakers. So he has to use these four skills for the writer to fully understand him, or maybe her. Okay? Okay. Now let me show you how the writer is going to use these four skills for any piece of writing to be professional. What do I mean by examples? What do I mean by synonyms, antonyms, or maybe definitions? Okay. Let's imagine that we have a writer and this writer wrote this piece of writing or a paragraph. Okay. Now let's read the paragraph and let me show you every skill the writer is going to use.
Sorry, do you mean they use example synonyms and
Yes,
for
absolutely.
the audience or for themselves?
For the audience, for you to understand them.
Okay. Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Maybe there's people are not native
Maybe
or
there are people, bravo, exactly. Absolutely.
okay.
Because let me tell you, let me give you an example, Malak. Now let's imagine that an American writer. If I want to use the sophisticated language all the time, only Americans are going to read my novel. Yeah, I have to be simple. I have to be as simple as much as you can. For example, just for my novel to be to be general. I mean, for all people in all over countries, maybe should read my novel. The people in Pakistan, in India, in Philippines, in Lebanon,
Yeah.
for example. Yes, these are the characteristics of a professional writers. I'm not talking about ordinary writers.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
I know that you are still confused. Let me explain them. Let's imagine that in the Duolingo exam, now in reading and completing, read and complete, you have this text. Okay, the text is saying it was time for the band to march on the field. The crowd was ecstatic. Okay, people screamed and cheered. Okay, now maybe you don't know the meaning of cheered.
But
Okay?
it's similar of
Ah,
screamed.
bravo. Or maybe you don't know, for example, showing their excitement. The music intensified or maybe and increased. Okay. Maybe you don't know the meaning of intensified. Because you don't know the meaning of intensified, notice how the writer used what? Synonyms. Synonym. The
Okay.
synonym of intensified is what?
Increased.
Increased, absolutely. So, and notice how he used or maybe and.
And
Bravo.
yes.
And maybe in the complete and right, you have only the first two letters. Maybe you are confused. You don't know that it is intensified, but because you have synonym, which is increased, you will know that the synonym of increased is what? Intensified.
So, mm,
Okay?
okay.
Okay. Now, let me complete reading just to show you how the writer is going to use another skill. Unlike her timid, you don't know the meaning of timid, friends, Morgan was unafraid. Okay, let's imagine, Malak, that in the Duolingo exam, you have only TI or maybe T,
Mm,
and you don't know how to complete this word. What do we have here? Unlike. Unlike is the opposite. Now, in the second or the next class, we have what?
unafraid.
Unafraid. And we have unlike. What is the opposite of unafraid?
Opposite.
Afraid.
Afraid.
Bravo. So the
Afraid.
meaning
Yeah.
of timid is what? Afraid.
Ah, okay. Okay.
Bravo. So
Yeah.
notice how the writer used what?
Mm,
Antonyms. This is
okay.
it. Okay, maybe, Malak, the writer is not going to use synonyms. Maybe the writer is not going to use antonyms. Okay, let me complete reading.
Mm,
So, unlike her timid friends, Morgan was unafraid to perform in front of the roaring crowd, gave a standing ovation. Holy God, I don't know the meaning of ovation. Okay, absolutely, you have to complete reading. Now, the fans, people, stood and clapped to show
mm.
their appreciation for such a great performance. So notice how writer defined the unknown word definition. So notice how the writer is in the next absolutely sentence is going to tell you the meaning of ovation. Ovation
Ah, it's
means
a definition of ovation.
bravo. This is it. What does
Okay.
ovation mean? Ovation means when people stand and clap their
Clapped.
hands to
Yeah.
show their appreciation.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they are
Okay.
extremely happy. Okay?
Mm,
So notice how the writer used what? Definition.
yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
Aha.
Mm,
So maybe the writer is not going to use synonyms, maybe not antonyms, maybe not definitions. Now, 100% he's going to use examples. Let me show you an
exactly.
example. Bravo. Now, it was time for the band to march on the field. The crowd was ecstatic. You don't know the meaning of ecstatic. So notice how the writer is going to give you an example about ecstatic.
Mm,
An example is what?
screamed.
Another example is what?
Cheered. Nah.
Bravo.
Cheered. Okay.
Bravo. So the ecstatic means when people are screaming
Mm,
and cheering.
mm,
So this is the meaning of ecstatic. So absolutely, Malak, the writer is going to use one of them. This is the meaning of context clues. All the time, you have to consider the context clues because sometimes, Malak, to be honest, only one letter is going to be shown. One letter, for example, I, and you have 5 blanks. Sometimes
mm,
it's extremely hard to know uh, the the blanks. You have to consider the conjunction of the conjunctions of the words, the intention of the writer, and the context clues. Okay?
yeah.
So this is the meaning of context clues. Please, this is extremely important. You have to use or apply this skill. It is helpful too much. We cannot neglect or deny the grammar because the grammar is really important just to discover if it is singular, plural, past, simple present, passive voice, or maybe modal verb or something like that. Practicing is really important. Okay?
Mm. How to practice how to have more vocabulary how
Okay. First of all,
by
Malak,
reading or
absolutely by reading. Okay. Uh,
okay, because I don't have a lot of vocabulary, and
okay.
it's the first time that I see this vocabulary that you put it now on the
Well,
test.
yeah.
Yeah.
And there's something you have to know, Malak. You have to put the vocab in context. I'm going to send a link to you about a video I have already published on YouTube. Please, if you want to memorize the vocabulary, I know, Malak, that maybe you tried to memorize vocab too much and you forgot most of them. Please,
Mm,
there is a piece of advice I'm going to tell you about vocab. Please remind Dr. Aisha just to tell me to send the link to you about the video, about the best way to memorize vocab, because you need vocab in reading, writing, and speaking. You need them in
yes.
reading just to figure out the meaning of the passage. You need them in writing because your meaning should be complete. You need them in speaking because you have to speak completely and
Mm,
correctly.
yeah,
Okay?
sure. Mm,
By the way, Malak, the next class we are going to practice. This is number one. Number two, I'm going to send you a link. You can practice freely about Duolingo test. You can practice as much as you can.
mm,
But
okay.
absolutely, you have to practice here. So the next class is going to be about the practicing. We have at least 25 forms about the practicing, but we will delay this class, or
Mm,
we will start practicing the next class.
okay, that's good.
Okay.
Okay.
So I think it's enough for today. And if you have any questions, absolutely you can ask me. Is everything okay, Malak?
Yeah, I hear.
Okay, so I have to wish. What time is it in your country, you know?
It's 10 and a half.
Ah, you have to sleep, I
Yeah.
think.
And no, it's in the morning.
Ah, are you in Australia, I think?
No, I'm in Canada.
Ah, oh, okay. So it's the
Yeah.
beginning of the day. So let me wish a
Yeah.
nice day for you. Have a nice
Thank
day.
you. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye
Thank you so
bye.
much. Bye bye.